Neptune, imagination, visualization, and spirituality. Neptune's call is experienced as the urge for transcendence, whether that be in healthy or unhealthy ways, skillfully or unskillfully. The planet is not worldly whatsoever. Its pull is to take you out of worldly concerns into a transcendent reality. Neptune is most often experienced through the imagination, with its vast range of potential experiences, from the high road to the low road. The range of possibilities with your imagination includes visualization, spiritual inspiration, creative insights, faith, listening to the still, quiet voice within, fear, illusions, escapism, and deception. That is a lot of territory, and not all of it seems spiritual. All of these experiences are related to the desire to transcend your separate sense of self in the world of everyday reality. If you do not create healthy outlets for its expression, Neptune will manifest in unhealthy ways. As an outer planet, Neptune is more related to the needs of your soul and spirit than to those of your ego. Neptune's influence is subtle but pervasive. Whether this is a benefit for you or a source of trouble is up to you to tend to the influence of this subtle giant. Does your imagination wander aimlessly, sometimes deluding you and sometimes inspiring you? Or have you harnessed this faculty and honed into it a tool of creativity, inspiration, and inner spiritual guidance? These questions will be explored in this chapter and considered in terms of how they influence relationships. When experiences happen to you that are outside of the rational mind's ability to comprehend, how do you respond? Do they trigger fear or faith? Do they inspire you or cause you to concern over your sanity? We will first explore the imagination itself as the main vehicle through which Neptune is experienced. We will then cover skillful and unskillful means of working with your Neptune. Next, spirituality and relationships will be explored, followed by tests along the way in becoming familiar with this subtle realm. The second section covers Neptune through the signs and its influences on relationships. Imagination, the vehicle. Imagination is often underrated. If something cannot be imagined, it cannot be done. The sequence is always the same in the creative process. First, Buck Rogers, and then NASA. First, imagination, and then reality. Many people do not think of themselves as imaginative and creative, and yet it is something that everyone takes part in throughout life. The trick is to identify how your imagination operates in your life and see if you can direct its course, rather than let it wander aimlessly. What do fantasy, illusion, visualization, spirituality, escapism, inspiration, and deception all have in common? Imagination. In each of these activities, imagination is the process that allows the experience. What a resource. For the artist of relationships, just as with the painter or the musician, imagination is what allows an experience to rise above the common and mundane and become truly inspired. Many of us have been raised to believe that imagination means not real. How many times did you hear, "Oh, it's just your imagination," as if it were a dismissal? By not respecting what a tremendous resource it is, imagination is regulated to escapist fantasy. However, imagination is simply a vehicle, and as such, is neutral. What you do with it determines whether it impacts your life will be positive or negative. Drugs, alcohol, fantasy, daydreaming of a different life, or even surrendering consciousness to television or movies, all of these function as methods of escaping the pressures of everyday life. True, imagination is most often used as a method of temporarily taking a break from reality, and there is nothing wrong with this. But there is nothing right with this either, as these escapist wanderings never change reality, then they essentially waste creative energy that could be used in more positive ways. The easiest and most direct way of capturing the energy that gets wasted on idle fantasy is to invest it back into your life. Neptune exercise for accepting your life as it is. Spend a few minutes alone in a quiet place before you start your day, closing your eyes and experiencing your breath with great attention. Try to imagine, and it takes imagination, that at least from your soul's perspective, everything in your life is exactly as it should be for what your journey is about today. Sink into the feeling of harmony that comes from this acceptance. Many people have a fear of accepting their lives as exactly perfect as is. There is still so much that could be improved on. This fear comes from the illusion that if you accept your life as perfect now, you will be stuck with how it is forever. Just the opposite is true. By imagining that your life would be better if you had more money, or if you were in a better relationship, if, you are essentially disengaging from the spiritual authority of your own soul. To live your life from a spiritual perspective is to believe that your soul has been the author of every experience of your life, including your current reality. By imagining your life as perfect, you are engaging the spiritual authority of your soul and essentially investing the imagination factor back into your real life, rather than spending it on idle fantasy. There are times when the love of a lost one or a painful divorce puts us in a place we really do not want to be in. But even then, healing begins once we can accept the appropriateness of our current situation. This practice will help you become rooted in the reality of your current, here and now situation in life. Now, Neptune's imagination is not attempting to escape your life, and it becomes a source of spiritual wisdom, adding to your life throughout the day. From this place, your life starts moving forward as faith unfolding. Most everyone agrees that they are looking for peace in their lives. Few realize that you have to start from a state of harmony in order to experience it throughout the rest of your day. You cannot maintain something that you do not have. With spiritual concerns, you must be willing to first find within yourself what you are looking for in the outer world. Just as the classic myth of returning from a quest and finding the sought-after treasure in your own backyard, the same is true in spiritual concerns. Find it first in your inner world, and then you will have no trouble finding it in the outer world. The sixth sense of Neptune awakens us to a dimension of reality beyond the normal senses. This is the magic kingdom where reality is not limited by time and space constraints. Train your imagination, and it will become the key to opening to inspiration, both creative and spiritual. Without training, your Neptune will be randomly generating these inspired states, but just as often, this world of make-believe leads to illusions. Illusion, the low road. There are many expressions of Neptune that are not inspired, but not necessarily problematic either. This would include idle daydreaming and mild escapist activities such as television and movie watching. However, there are expressions that are problematic, and chief among them is susceptibility to illusions. Unhealthy manifestations of Neptune in relationships stem from falling in love with qualities in another that are not there. They are just imagined. The imagination is working, but in problematic ways. Then, over time, reality sets in and disappointment always follows. Disappointment in relationships is often a function of illusionary expectations. Disillusion always follows illusion. Always. There are at least two different causes of this type of behavior. One source stems from an inability to accept the painful or lower aspects of the human experience. Then the imagination works by distorting your view of reality to support what is emotionally tolerable for you. This denial syndrome is resolved by learning to expand that which is emotionally tolerable. Each and every one of us has a higher self and a lower self. This could also be said of every opportunity that comes your way. It has its best and worst possible scenarios as potentials. If all you see in any person or situation is the highest and the best, you might be setting yourself up for the blind spots of Neptune. It is not being negative to imagine a potential worst case scenario. It is simply protecting yourself from susceptibility to illusion. Are you in love with what you wish was true about your partner or what is actually true? Another source of illusionary expectations comes from the savior-victim complex. This happens when you fall in love with someone This happens when you fall in love with someone with the illusion that you can save them. This type of love is based on pity and soon becomes pitiful love. A typical scenario is this. You meet a person who has experienced a series of misfortunes in life. This awakens your compassion. You believe that this person's problems actually stem from never having been fully loved and understood. The savior in you steps forward and you take the person on as a project, believing that once this person experiences the type of love you have to offer, their problems will disappear. Does it work? Rarely. The solution to falling in love with wounded birds requires experience. Until you have experienced the pain of this type of relationship syndrome, you will not believe you are prone to it. With experience, you learn that it is wise to look before you leap. If you are susceptible to this type of relationship, watch a person with some detachment before making a commitment. Do you admire the qualities that the person developed before the two of you met? Do you love the person as is, or are you falling in love with an imagined potential? Included within the category of illusions are all forms of deception. Being deceived by others or deceiving yourself are attempts to create an illusionary reality. These soap bubble realities eventually burst. Involvement with drugs and alcohol is a more serious form of living an illusion and will not be dealt with in this book. If you or someone you love is having problems in this regard, seek help. Suffice it to say that this type of person hungers for the transcendent life above the mundane, normal experience. This hunger can be met by cultivating the high road with Neptune, the spiritual quest. Spirituality, the high road. Spirituality is a loaded word for many people. It can bring up memories of religious and moral training of good and evil. An expanded view of spirituality is the search for the divine wherever it can be found. There are many paths that lead to this awareness. Some people do find it through traditional forms of religious participation, while others find it through more private, contemplative methods such as meditation, quiet walks in nature, or reading sacred literature. Many find spiritual nourishment through music and art, while still others find it through loving. Whatever the form, the search leads to the underlying spirit that animates all life. It deals with the inner quality that you bring to whatever it is you are doing. The spirit of the involvement, rather than the form, is a significant factor. You could picture Neptune as a lotus flower at your third eye. When the lotus flower is pointing up toward the light, it receives the inspiration from above. When the lotus flower is pointing down toward the muck, it is being fed by the shadowy depths rather than the clear light from above. The artist and the spiritual seeker have trained the lotus flower of the third eye to aim toward the light and receive inspiration that can be integrated into their lives. Training is the key for getting to the higher level of consciousness that Neptune offers. Without training, Neptune wanders from escapism to fantasy, to illusions, to imagined fears, and the like. As you develop on your path, you become more and more aware that there is a sense of purpose in your life, that your life does have meaning and significance, not just for yourself, but also in terms of what you are contributing to the benefit of others. To get in touch with your essential spirituality is to get in touch with your transpersonal self. This is that place in you that is connected to your spiritual source. To become aware of your transpersonal identity is to feel yourself lifted up beyond self-importance, to start taking yourself less seriously, and to take what you are offering to the world more seriously. When you have opened to this aspect of your life, relationships take on a different quality. They do so because you no longer are looking for something from them. You accept them as a part of the divine grace of your life and experience them as such. A spiritual person looks for the divine manifested in all of life. Everywhere you go and every person you see is another aspect of divine creation. To feel your spirituality when you are in the grocery store, the bank, preparing dinner, or visiting with friends is the essence of the spiritual life. A spirituality that exists only in a certain building at a certain time and place compartmentalizes it and limits its benefits. The higher spiritual qualities of Neptune can be developed. There are skills and technique of consciousness for this purpose, and just as with all skills, they improve with training and use, and atrophy without use. The following is a discussion of the resources and skills that can be developed on the spiritual path. First, work with these skills as if they were personal resources, and then try working with them with others. The observer within. All spiritual traditions teach the necessity to develop the perspective of the inner observer. The observer is aware of your body and therefore is not your body. The observer is aware of your thoughts and mental activity and therefore is something larger than your mind. The observer is pure awareness and can be cultivated through meditation and mindfulness training. The observer, the seat of awareness, is present even as you get involved in all the many activities of your life, observing with peaceful awareness. It is just watching the show, your show. Krishnamurti, sorry, I slaughtered that, referred to this as the detached observer. Christian mythics refer to it as the witness, while Buddhists call it a point of mindfulness. Hindu tradition identifies it as the third eye, and in astrology, it is the higher level of Neptune. It is the ability to attend to a larger spiritual reality while simultaneously attending to your personal life. To be in touch with the observer is to be in the world, but not of the world. To employ the witness is a subtle technique, especially when you are engaging your imagination. When you are daydreaming and fantasizing, you have stopped controlling your conscious attention. To monitor your daydreaming, you have to be able to maintain your attention while the drifting is occurring. The trick is to be aware of it and simultaneously allow it to continue. A certain delicacy is required to be able to be in both places at once, which is the point of the added awareness. You first tell yourself that you are going to practice being the witness the next time you start fantasizing. As it starts occurring, stand back and watch it happen. If you are not gentle in your awareness, you will snap out of the daydream. That is why you must be delicate in your shift of attention. If you are successful, you will activate the witness. At this stage, you are seeking a passive observance of the effects that the daydream or any activity is having on your energy field. Is there a subtle enhancement or a depletion? A constriction or an expansion? What you will begin to notice is that some of your fantasies are energy drains, essentially excrement of the psychic energy field. After these involvements, you will notice a general state of overall depletion. The range of this can be anywhere from a subtle depletion to total exhaustion. You will also begin to notice those inner reveries that empower you. Again, this can range from mild to ecstatic. There is no external authority involved in this, as everyone has to find out for themselves. The faculty that allows you to distinguish between draining and empowering fantasies is what is being developed. It is different for everyone, and it is always changing. No pat answer will work. The witness is passive observation, and in and of itself will change nothing in your life. To actually edit your imagination and direct it toward healthy, inspiring material requires your spiritual will. There is a center within you that controls the direction of your thoughts and imagination. It strengthens with use and atrophies with non-use. This is called your spiritual will. When strengthened through exercises such as meditation, prayer, and creative visualization, this resource becomes available for your creative direction. This affords you the opportunity to improve and enhance all aspects of your life, including your relationships. Without discipline, the imagination operates randomly, sometimes enhancing your life and other times undermining your reality through false perception. The following is an exercise for strengthening your spiritual will. Neptune exercise for staying mindful when your mind wanders. This exercise will allow you to direct the course, not the content of your imagination. If you are daydreaming, fantasizing, or lost in inner reveries about someone or something, pull back into your observer. Be aware of your energy field and note if there is a subtle enhancement or depletion of it. If you sense an energy drain, engage your spiritual will and redirect your inner wanderings to something that empowers you. Learn to use your own energy field as a code of ethics to monitor if any activity is appropriate for you or not. Using meditation. Meditation is the most important resource you have on your spiritual path. Meditation sets the stage for divine rapport. It can be said that your spiritual self will never turn its back on you, but when you fail to meditate, you turn your back on your spiritual self. Meditation has its traditional forms, including posture and breath control. For some people, these forms work very well. For others, especially those who have not yet learned to tame their energy field, a moving meditation is better. This can be walking, gardening, arranging flowers, or just about any activity that allows you to fully surrender to the moment. It is usually the case that the busier a person gets, the more that meditation is needed, and the harder it is to find the time for it. Yet, daily meditation is a key ingredient to the spiritual life, and when exercised, the need for counselors, drugs, alcohol, and therapy goes down considerably. It is hard to market meditation, however. It costs nothing and doesn't require you to join anything. It can be thought of as a daily enlightenment hit. Enlightenment is too often thought of as a perfected state. Once achieved, that is, you get your halo and start walking on water. It is not that way. It is more common to bob in and out of divine awareness, to be enlightened one moment and searching the next. Meditation gives you perspective. It offers you assurance of your ability to experience tranquility and fulfillment at will. There are many meditation books, tapes, and techniques available. It is not important which one you choose. It is only important that you find a technique that works for you. At first, it takes discipline to establish a pattern of meditation, but soon you will look forward to it as a reward. It takes a different type of willpower to initiate a meditation practice that most people are accustomed to. Typically, our willpower is directed by the needs and desires of the ego. With meditation, you are using your spiritual will to direct your attention beyond the ego's domain. Knowing that you should meditate is different from integrating it into your daily life. Experiment with meditation for at least 1 month, and you will likely find that you will never let it go. Meditation can make that much of a difference in your life. Your capacity for dealing with stressful situations will improve markedly, along with being better able to enjoy life's simple pleasures. Meditation is like cleaning the inner windows of the soul. The activity itself is nice enough, but the true benefit is that you get to see through clean windows. The hunger for spirituality is an innate drive in all of us, and as with everything else connected to the human experience, it has its positive and negative expressions. To be involved in a relationship that has a sense of purpose and spiritual direction is indeed one of life's sweetest rewards. But the quest for a spiritual life, if not integrated into everyday reality, can just as easily be a burden on a relationship. Like the pain of unrequited love, it is also painful to long for a spirituality-based relationship and not have it. A common complaint of many is that they wish to be more spiritual, but their partner is just not interested. We all learn that you cannot tell someone they should be more spiritual. For those of you who have tried, you know what I mean, and it never works. I advise someone in this situation to be as a tuning fork and take responsibility for resonating at the tone that you desire in your relationships. It is never fair to ask another to be something that you are not. It is also helpful to visualize that your partner is becoming more interested in spiritual concerns than to look for the little ways that this is becoming so. Spiritual relationships might take many forms, but reverence will always be present. Reverence for life and reverence for each other. A spiritual relationship is one in which both people support soul growth in each other. Soulmates. The concept of soulmates is the most attractive and alluring ideal. The image of a soulmate is an all-embracing, all-accepting partner, is what I call an earth mate. This is the mate who loves you no matter what, whether you are growing or moving backwards, whether you are coming from your highest place or your lowest, or whether you are even making an effort. A soulmate reflects your need for spiritual evolution. To be in the presence of a true soulmate is to be stripped of illusions about yourself. It is not always flattering and certainly not always comfortable to be in such a relationship. This person knows your higher self and sees when you are not in alignment with it. You can't mistake the glance from a soulmate. It is as if their higher self is communicating with your higher self, and you can't avoid the message. Many people believe that there is only one soulmate per person. Out of the billions of people on this planet, there is only one who is correct for you. Again, it just doesn't work that way. Life after life, time after time, we experience soul connections with many people. Once a lover, once a child, once a friend, once a sibling. We have all been around the block many times with many people, and the soul remembers all of these experiences. All of these people make up your soul family. For some, it is a small family, and for others, it is large. But for all, there is more than just one person who is going to affect you at the soul level. It is glorious to connect with members of your soul family, to feel that sense of reconnection across the barriers of time and space. It is blissful, wonderful, and sometimes most confusing. Imagine that you are happily married and you have children. You are satisfied in your life choices, and basically your life is set. Then you meet someone who starts making you question soulmate ties. The confusion begins when you try to interpret what this relationship means. Soulmate relationships trigger love. You may be monogamous, but your soul is not. You can pledge your body to one person, but not your soul. It seeks to learn and grow and interact with many. The challenges seem to center around the question of intimacy. Love is felt, so should affection be expressed? How about sex? These are the questions that often arise, and this is where people start getting hurt, including yourself. Learning to maintain intimacy with members of your soul family without gravitating toward the physical is a way of sustaining these ties. Call it being monogamous in body and polygamous in spirit. Whole new forms of relationships open up that can blossom into lifelong friendships. Understand that soulmates might be brothers, children, teachers, co-workers, or neighbors. When you open yourself up to the spiritual level of life and become aware of the quality of your soul, you'll be surprised at how many people make up your soul family. It is said that when you are ready for the next lesson, the right teacher appears. This is not because the teacher comes out of the Himalayas to find you. It is because there are teachers in all walks of life, including yours. Many of your soul family connections will be in your current life for just a short time. These people will enter your life to help you connect with an important part of your soul's evolution. A specific lesson is learned, and then the reason for the relationship is over. Other soul ties will be ongoing, lifelong relationships. 1 second. Okay. Soul evolution is a process of learning how to be complete within yourself, a coming together of the male and female parts of your inner being. Soulmates enter into your life not to be the other half of you, but to awaken the other half of you. Therein lies the critical point in these relationships. If you contribute that awkward quality to your mate, then you missed the magic moment. Each of your soulmate ties will enhance greater expression and wholeness of the self. Test along the way your relationships with psychic images of others. The quality of time spent with the inner psychic image of your partner does make a difference, especially when you are not together. The inner invisible connection is the Neptune level of your relationship. This can be cultivated to enrich the quality of rapport, but first you must identify how it is currently operating in your life. It is important to realize that Neptune's function does not depend on your belief in the transcendent level of life. It is there and operating nonetheless. However, your skill at working with it depends on your faith in the efficiency of this invisible realm. Experiment with this and see if it's true. Sometime when you are not together with your partner, direct your attention to what you most enjoy about your relationship. Hold your friend's image in your mind with the highest regard and imagine some of the best of what the two of you have shared. Now see what happens when you first come back together. This is subtle work, but it is oh so powerful in its impact. Watch how the inner attention to what you most enjoy about your partner makes it so much easier for the two of you to fall into an easy rapport when you're next together. Your subtle energy field is open and welcoming. The converse of this is equally true. Notice what happens when you are apart from each other and you spend your time dwelling on your disappointments or resentments in the relationship. See what happens when you reunite with your partner after this negative psychic buildup. Your subtle energy field now has barbs and thorns in it. Although you might believe your inner wanderings to be totally private and inconsequential, watch and you will see how this has an impact on the quality of your relationships in the world. What you pay attention to grows. Yogananda called attention your lifetrons. You give life to what you direct your attention toward. It is interesting that we have coined the phrase, pay attention. It implies your attention is an investment. You can pay attention to what is desirable and delightful in your relationship, and that will grow. Or you can pay attention to what your relationship isn't, and believe it or not, the isn't-ness will grow. The power of positive creative visualization is such that if you train your imagination to focus on what you wish to see grow, it will. Watch out for your yeah, but tendencies. When I teach this powerful truth of attention, people will often respond, yeah, but, and whatever they say next is what they are really paying attention to, investing it, and of course, manifesting it in their lives. Fear and faith. Fear and faith are essentially different sides of the same Neptune coin. One is the negative use of imagination, and the other is the positive. But quite clearly, imagination is the key ingredient of both experiences. Are your relationships based on fear, or are they based on faith? If you tend to be dominated by fear, then you are not in touch with your faith. Conversely, if you have cultivated your faith, you are not likely to experience much fear. Fear is simply a reminder that you need to cultivate your faith. If you are caught up in fear, whether it be fear of losing your relationship or even of having to stay with your partner, keep in mind that your fear colors your world of experience. The power of faith is in knowing that light and love are the strongest forces in the world. Faith is what gives you the courage to live life to the fullest, to confront fear with the absolute assurance that you can dispel it. Fear is a landmark that you bump into when you are not using your faith. If you were on a boat journey and you came across a warning buoy of approaching danger, you would more than likely change course toward a safer passage. The relationship of fear to faith is the same. Fear is the warning buoy that informs you to change course toward a safer passage. Compassion or martyrdom. It is a fine line that separates the compassionate person from the martyr. Both deal with your sensitive nature responding to the needs of others. The difference is that one brings pain and one brings joy. Compassion is the one characteristic that distinguishes a spiritual person from all others. It is possible to grow in awareness, in psychic sensitivity, and to expand your consciousness without growing one iota in spirituality. Compassion is the awareness that there, but for the grace of God, go you or I. Compassion is based on self-transcendence, and martyrdom is based on self-denial. They are similar, yes, but martyring behavior is always at the expense of yourself, while compassion liberates you from yourself. Compassion is the mark of a person who is aware of the quality of grace. People who are not aware of divine grace think that their gifts were attained through their efforts. The person with compassion never takes spiritual gifts for granted, ever. People are often made aware that there is no greater spiritual gift in life than a relationship with a loved one. When an accident or mishap takes the life of a loved one, it is often heard, "I never really knew how much I loved him until he passed away." Or, "I never took the time to let her know how important she was to me, and then now that she is gone, I can't ever do that." These and countless other examples of waiting until it's too late to express your love should serve as a reminder that relationships are a divine gift, and your partner should never be taken for granted. The martyr, on the other hand, is forever forsaking the spiritual gift of life, as if denying the self is a tribute to spiritual character. Belittling oneself and denying the awareness of spiritual grace in one's life is spiritual suicide. I call it false humility, a way of glorifying the self by denying the self. The martyr role is a denial of the divine gift. If God is truly everywhere, including within oneself, then denying the self is denying God. Frustrated God search. Many people turn to God in prayer only in the time of crisis. If they could learn to turn their eyes to their spiritual needs even in times of peace and calm, then perhaps they would not need crisis in their lives. It has been said often in this book that the first and foremost relationship each of us goes through is one with our inner partner. Once you begin to open the spiritual doors in your life, you begin to develop needs that only your relationship with the spiritual source within can satisfy. It is quite common that when people begin to develop spirituality, their relationships begin to suffer. Why? These people are looking for something in their partners that only their spiritual self can provide. It is important to realize which is which. Call this a frustrated God search. Learn to look to the people in your life for your people needs, and learn to look for your spiritual self for the needs that can be only met by the divine. The barometer of harmony. There is an essential harmony in life, and to know this is to accept a divine gift. You have been given an inner barometer that can measure when you are in a state of harmony and when you are not. If you have faith that you are meant to live in harmony with yourself, your loved ones, and the universe, then when you are not in this state, your barometer will inform you that adjustments are needed. It may sound simple, and it is. Everyone has the right to live in harmony. Harmony is the norm. Conflict is the illusion. To act on this would be to put such faith in harmony that you distrust your perceptions when you are not aligned with it. When you are in harmony, your perceptions are clear and often inspired. When you are not in harmony, your perceptions are distorted by the imbalance, and action taken from this distorted perspective will only further complicate issues. This does not imply that you should always be in harmony. You will drift in and out of this state of grace, as we all do. However, the spiritual person is aware of the brutality of acting while in the state of imbalance and simply waits for harmony to return. It does return, and it returns with greater frequency and for longer durations of time, the more you have faith in it. Neptune through the signs. Neptune is most clearly experienced as your imagination, which takes you beyond the rational mind and objective reality. Through your mind's eye, you have the capacity to transcend your everyday view of life and experience another dimension of reality. Violates community guidelines. TikTok though, not today, don't start. The capacity to imagine is to give all of us through Neptune. What each of us do with this is the gift to us. The range of potential expression covers the entire spectrum from fear to faith, from illusion to inspiration, from escapism to spiritual insights. Neptune's job is to dissolve the separate ego identity so that you can become aware of the larger transcendent reality of which you are a part. With spiritual discipline, you can learn to direct your attention away from illusion and toward inspiration. If one is not aware or experienced in the transcendent realms, this dissolving function of Neptune simply creates an identity crisis. The sign of your Neptune at birth is where you can draw inspiration or get lost in the famous Neptunian blind spot. Neptune spends approximately 14 years in each sign and links you to a generational theme that you share with all of those born during that same time period. This is a sign that describes what your generation idolizes and glamorizes and where it is prone to illusion. Since Neptune's transit is so slow, we will limit our exploration of Neptune through the signs of people who are living at this time. Much of the information is not specific to relationships, but is offered to give you added insights into your generation's underlying motivations and those of different generations.